Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're really excited that you're here and that you came out tonight. I know there's so many other things that folks can have on their plate. We welcome you. I am Dawn. I am from Hopkinton Youth and Family Services, and we are the staff liaison to the Hopkinton Youth Commission. But tonight's event is theirs, and it was born out of their desire to improve mental health in the community and raise awareness about mental health and what it is, as well as build community and restore volunteerism. And, you know, very timely. Things tend to all come together on the head of a pin sometimes. The U.S. Surgeon General just issued an advisory on the healing effects of social connection and community. And one of the things talked about is volunteering. It may not be for everyone. That might not be what makes somebody feel mentally well, but it definitely is something that can build the social fabric, build social connections, allow someone to give and receive mentoring. There's just so many implications. So I'm very grateful whether you're joining us on HCAM or you're joining us live tonight. I'm very grateful for you tuning in and learning about volunteer opportunities in Hopkinton, learning from volunteers what volunteerism has meant to them. But a very special volunteer is Eva Bennett. She is the chair of the Youth Commission and the first youth chair of the Youth Commission. So I'll let her welcome you formally. Take care.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow volunteers. It is with great pleasure and excitement that I stand before you today as the chair of the Hopkinton Youth Commission to welcome each and every one of you to this remarkable event. My name is Eva Bennett, and together we have gathered here today to celebrate the power of volunteerism and its profound impact on mental health. Before we delve into the essence of this event, let me take a moment to shed some light on the Youth Commission and our mission. Our purpose is to identify the evolving needs of Hopkinton's youth and families and create inclusive opportunities that foster their long-term well-being. We work collaboratively with the Select Board, Town Manager, and various town departments and organizations such as Youth and Family Services, Parks and Recreation, the Police Department, Public Library, Senior Services, and the Public School District, among others. We collaborate with other organizations whose goals are aligned with ours, such as Youth and Family Services, to develop recommendations for the Board of Selectmen regarding programs and policies benefiting youth and families. At the Youth Commission, we are passionate advocates for mental health, LGBTQ support, and we are champions of diversity. We believe in the importance of raising awareness and promoting healthy adolescent development. As you know, volunteerism is recognized as a not-so-secret strategy to experience joy and wellness. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from some incredible speakers, including our keynote speaker from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Ms. Sarah Ford. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans affected by mental illness. We are honored to have you here with us. We are also thrilled to showcase the remarkable efforts of our superstar volunteers who have generously dedicated their time and energy to various organizations in our town. Their experiences and stories will undoubtedly inspire us all. Let's give a warm welcome to Jack Nealon, Deb Colburn, Michelle Creel, Russ Ellsworth, Sandy Hammond, and Joshua Jones. Thank you for being shining examples of the positive change that can be achieved through volunteerism. One of our primary goals today is to raise awareness about the numerous avenues for volunteering in our community. We have representatives from several town departments and organizations present here, giving you the opportunity to connect with them and explore the volunteer opportunities available in Hopkinton. But our efforts do not end with this event. The Youth Commission is committed to working tirelessly throughout the year in collaboration with other town departments and local nonprofit organizations to provide equitable opportunities for residents of all ages to engage in volunteerism. We aim to develop year-round volunteer initiatives that foster connection, reduce isolation, and promote mental health. We are also actively building a volunteer database for local nonprofits and creating a resource listing to encourage year-round volunteerism. Stay tuned for more updates. If any of this resonates with you and you feel inspired to make a difference, I want to let you know that the Youth Commission currently has 3 member openings, 1 high school liaison and 1 middle school liaison. We would be thrilled to have you join our team and contribute to the betterment of youth and families in our community. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for being here today. Your presence is a testament to your commitment to service and your dedication to improving the lives of others. Today, we can create a community that thrives on compassion, inclusivity, and support. Now, without further ado, let us get this exciting event started. Join me in welcoming our esteemed keynote speaker, Ms. Sarah Ford, who will provide valuable insights into the significance of volunteerism and mental health. Sarah Ford is the Senior Manager of Community Education and Outreach at the National Alliance on Mental Health in Massachusetts. Sarah is a licensed certified social worker with degrees from Boston University School of Social Work and School of Theology. Her previous work focused on youth and family programming for community-based nonprofits in Massachusetts, Virginia, and Hawaii. Sarah is originally from Sharon, Massachusetts, and in her free time, she enjoys ultimate frisbee or taking dance classes. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a nice introduction. I've never been called a keynote before, so thanks for that. All right, so you know we're the NAMI, Massachusetts, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So NAMI is a nonprofit. We are grassroots, and what that means is we are by the people, for the people. So everybody who's involved in NAMI consider themselves either a person with a mental health condition or a caregiver of somebody with a mental health condition. We have lived experience of living with mental health. So we are a 3-tiered organization, meaning we have a national NAMI, each state has a NAMI, and then even within each state, we have local regional affiliates. I think you guys would be part of the Metro West affiliate. So what we do is we do education, support, and advocacy. So education is what I'm doing right now. I go all over the place and talk about mental health or talk about NAMI. Today I was at a middle school talking about mental health with I don't even know how many kids. So we do all sorts of presentations in different places. We also do support, which is we do support groups and classes, and we do advocacy. And what I mean by advocacy is like legislative advocacy. We go to the State House and we try to get certain bills and amendments passed. So an overview of our programs. So I kind of already gave you a little bit of a snippet of what we do, but we have peer support groups, which means a peer is somebody who identifies as having a mental health condition, and so we have support groups for them, and all of those are free, and anybody can drop in whenever they want, and we also have peer classes, and those are 8-week programs that are a little more instructional. And if you want to get involved in any of those, you would just go on our website, and you can register online, and they're regional, so you can go to one that's based in Metro West. A few of them are in person, but most of them are still online. And what I said before, we do presentations everywhere. We do presentations for churches and workplaces and schools and even police presentations. We're part of the Massachusetts, what are they called? I'll forget the acronym, so I'm not going to try. But we go to the police academies and we teach there, as well as we do trainings for people who are already certified officers. And finally, we have the Compass Helpline. And what that is a line that you can call and say, hey, I don't know how to find this resource. How do I find housing for my friend who's experiencing this mental health condition? How do I find food? How do I find therapy? And the people there are like encyclopedias. They know everything. The one thing to know about Compass is it's not a crisis line. A crisis line is a little bit different. That's if you need immediate support. I encourage you to call the Massachusetts Behavioral Helpline if you need help in the immediate, or you can also call 988. That's the new national number. It's like 911, but for mental health, which is really great. It has that really easy number to remember. So I wanted to go through a few of the speaking programs that we have, because that is where the bulk of our volunteers help. And so In Our Own Voice is a program where people who have lived experience of a mental health condition, they get up and just tell their stories. They say what it's like to have a mental health condition, what helps them, where do they go, and what is coming up for them. And the point is to show that people with mental health conditions are just like you and I, because they are you and I. And audiences have an opportunity to ask questions, and we really want to build that relationship and break down any barrier that they're like weird or different from us, because again, they are us, right? So that is probably our main speaking program, the most volunteers. Actually, Sandy is one of our volunteers, and she's going to speak in a little bit. We also do programs for schools. Allies for Mental Health is a professional development program that we do for teachers and school staff. And we also do Ending the Silence, which is the program I was doing earlier today at a middle school, and that's where we go talk to kids. So we talked about mental health and how to change the stigma, suicide prevention, that kind of thing. And then finally, sharing our stories. It's very similar to In Our Own Voice, but the individuals share their story about being a caregiver. So somebody in their family or somebody they're very close to, taking care of them and supporting them through a mental health condition. So what is mental health? This is very basic. You're probably like, oh my gosh, seriously? But I like to say this because mental health is a little bit different than a mental health condition. And everybody has mental health, and that's why we need to talk about it. Sometimes we think, oh, only people who are mentally ill is the people who need to worry about it. No, we all have it. And up to 50% of us over the course of a lifetime will have a mental health condition. So if it's not you, it's your mom, it's your sister, it's your brother, it's somebody that you care about. So we can't afford to pretend that it doesn't touch our lives, right? And we need to talk about it because the less we talk about it, people are feeling like they cannot talk about it, and then they're embarrassed and they don't reach out for help. And it's actually, the statistic says it takes 8 to 10 years for somebody to finally ask for help, which in my opinion is way too long. 8 to 10 years is a long time to be suffering before you ask for help. So we're trying to change that by doing these programs and getting out in the community and having people get up and be very vulnerable and talk about their mental health. Hopefully that encourages other people to do so as well. So what is recovery? We talk about mental health and we want to make sure that we're saying that it's not a static thing. It's not like once you get diagnosed with a mental health condition, that's it. You're done. It's not like that at all. Mental health is just like a physical health condition. There's treatment and things can change and things do get better. And recovery is not about being cured. For a lot of mental health conditions, they are lifelong, but it's about learning how to live and cope with that mental health condition so you can live a happy, full life. It may not look exactly like you imagined, but you learn to live in that new normal and to experience life in the best way that you can with a mental health condition. Recovery looks different for everybody, and there's lots of different paths to wellness. Somebody might use medication, somebody might use therapy, somebody might use neither of those things. Maybe they like going to take walks with their dog, whatever it is that works for them. So what's the connection between volunteering and mental health? Why am I up here talking about this right now? So there was a study in 2020 from the Journal of Happiness Studies, which I didn't know was a thing until very recently, but I thought that was interesting. And it was saying that people who volunteer, on average, are more happy and satisfied with their life, and their actual physical health is better. And you might be like, okay, but like people who are happy are the ones who volunteer, so correlation does not cause causation, right? But it actually showed that people who start off at a lower level of well-being that they rated themselves, actually their well-being got better after volunteering. So it's not just that happy people volunteer, it actually can improve your happiness by volunteering. So that is my little spiel in order to get you to volunteer with NAMI if you're interested. A quick overview of the possibilities for you to get involved with us. If you identify as having a mental health condition yourself, you can join our speaking program and you can go all across the state and you can talk to tons of different audiences about your story. And the same thing, if you identify as having someone in your family who has a mental health condition, maybe somebody that you support or you take care of, you can be a speaker for a different program called Sharing Our Stories. Or if you're an educator or a mental health professional, then you can be part of our programs that go into the schools and you can talk about your experience working with kids in that way and you can help train teachers. Finally, we also have kind of like the more one-off opportunities. You can come to our walk. It actually just happened last weekend, so not this year, but next year you could. And we have a convention in the fall. You could also be an office volunteer or you can be an intern. I will say to be an intern, you have to be at least 18. And that actually goes for all of our programs. You have to be at least 18. Unfortunately, I wish we could take youth, but at this moment we cannot. So that is the end of my portion, but Sandy Hammond, who was one of our volunteers, I convinced her to come out here and to talk about her experience, because I think I could talk about volunteering being important all day long, but it's more powerful to hear from somebody who's out there doing that work, right? I'm a staff member, I'm not a volunteer. So I would love for her to share her experience and how it helps her in her mental health recovery.
I'm so glad to be here with you all. I think I've been volunteering with NAMI, I want to say 4 years, 4 or 5. So before I talk about why I love volunteering for NAMI, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to this work. I am someone with actually 3 mental health diagnoses. And I want to say a little bit about my story, and I have decided to start with a poem that I wrote a week ago. This is actually the first place I've shared it, so oh my goodness. I'm a little shaky. Okay, this is called I Am More. I am more than my inherited gene pool, more than my maternal grandmother who spent over 35 years living in a state psychiatric hospital in northern Kentucky, more than my maternal grandfather, a dreamer, a painter, a drifter, living in poverty, very likely with undiagnosed ADHD. I am more than my paternal grandfather, who received electric shock treatment in a psychiatric hospital in his 70s after his wife died of cancer and his law firm went bankrupt the same year, demolishing his pension. I am more than my mother's deep childhood trauma passed on to me as intergenerational trauma. More than my father's career as a social worker and therapist, more than my brother's treatment for severe depression, more than my own psychiatric hospitalization at the age of 47. These stories belong to me, but I am more. I am more than the medication I take for anxiety. The stigma around mental illness sometimes enrages me, catches me off guard. If someone met me at a party and they knew I had asthma, which I do, they probably wouldn't whisper to the person next to them, "She's physically ill." Why then is there so much fear and preoccupation with what we call mental illness? If someone I met at a cocktail party knew I had taken myself to the emergency room with a panic attack, they might very well whisper to someone else, "She's mentally ill." Living with a mental illness is not the same thing as being mentally ill. If someone knew my friend Jenna had bipolar and OCD, or that my friend Kristen had made 2 suicide attempts and survived, they might whisper about them too. The stigma around mental illness is unfortunate. So let's banish it to the past, because I am more than all of my diagnoses, medications, emotions, the sensations that course through this 54-year-old body. I am more. Thank you. So that was a lot. So I'm going to take I'm going to share a little bit of my story from just another angle, a lighter angle. I am the music director at a small church. I direct the choir, which is a blast. I have the best network of friends. I have college friends, I have high school friends, I have church friends, I have work friends. I am just so lucky. I do sprint distance triathlons. I have 2 injuries right now, which is really bumming me out, but I'm in physical therapy. I want to get back to them. I always finish in the last 10%, and who cares? I get up at 4, and by noon I can say, oh, I've done a triathlon, let's go have lunch. I'm a songwriter. I've been writing songs since I was 11. I have a really wonderful partner, and he has 2 children from his previous marriage and now. If you'd told me at 54 I was going to have young children in my life, I wouldn't have believed you, and it is just a joy. I really, 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 really love dogs. I love to cook. My mom is 84. She takes art classes and goes to book club. My dad is 90. He still participates as an elected member in town government. And I'm in graduate school now, which was one of the best things I decided for my mental health at my age. It's like, you know what? I still matter. Middle age isn't the end. We don't have to just slide into some backwards, downhill aging thing. Like, no. So I'm getting a double master's in mental health counseling and music therapy at Lesley. And I'll just share, since, NAMI is about recovery and it looks different for everyone. So since my hospitalization, a big part of my recovery, the depression was 7 years ago, has me focused on social support, sleep, a routine, nutrition. I got a certificate in plant-based nutrition during the pandemic. Exercise is medicinal for me, 100%. Meditation, I love meditating. I do go to therapy, I do take my meds, and I go to support groups. But recovery also means talking to you, like doing these. So why do I volunteer at NAMI, and what do I get out of it? Every time I tell this story of my journey, I feel validated, seen, heard, and empowered. And yes, sometimes a little nervous. And it does remind me how far I've come in my recovery. There was a time I thought my life was just going to be crappy forever, and I was just going to have to settle. And there's a difference between stability, right? Doctors like to see that you're stable, and like an actual, joyful, satisfying life. Like, I think clients need to claw their way towards joy and not accept stability as like, okay, you're good, right? Because it's not enough. So I know when I do this that I'm reminding myself how I manage what recovery is, where I've come, how far I've come, and that I can also push back on stigma. We can push back on stigma. I know that maybe someone in my audience will call NAMI the next day looking for resources for themselves or someone they know. I know that someone might decide to donate money to NAMI because of its incredible advocacy. The advocacy and education and outreach that NAMI does, the numbers are just staggering. It's just beautiful work. It feels good to know I might help or inspire someone else. I've made wonderful friends with co-presenters. So we usually present in teams of 2, which is so smart. So you have a buddy, right? You're not like, oh, I'm gonna get up and talk about being bipolar and people are gonna judge me. Like, you have a buddy and you're in it together, and it's just like, it's awesome. It connects me to an expanding community of people who have healthy conversations about mental health. And when I volunteer at an event like the walk, there's just this, I'm sure those of you who volunteer have experienced this, there's a camaraderie among the volunteers that's, I think, special and unique to volunteering. Like, you might have come for different reasons, but when you show up at 7 a.m. to register people for that event that day, or whatever you're doing to volunteer, that you're there to make a difference, and you have something in common. So there's really nothing like it. And I'll just say that at NAMI, I get to be part of a community having the same conversation we're having right now about living well with mental illness, about reducing stigma, about showing compassion, and about helping each other through this complicated experience of being human. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming. My name's Asha Schering. I'm one of the volunteers at the Hopkinton Youth Commission. I want to especially thank Sarah and Sandy for your wonderful stories and sharing so much. It really means a lot to hear firsthand your experience. I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, and that's Michelle Creel. Michelle started volunteering at Bay Path in 2013, and she took on the volunteer role of community liaison in 2016. Michelle coordinates off-site educational presentations to all of the community. She also works with groups such as the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and school groups. Michelle is also a longtime dog foster and proud mom of 3 rescue dogs and chickens. Please welcome Michelle.
Thank you for having me. I am Michelle Creel, and I do volunteer at Bay Path Humane Society since 2013. That is here in Hopkinton. I am their community liaison, and I also run and I created the Bay Path Educates program, which we just talked about a little bit. That particular program does bring me out to a lot of schools and children's libraries and preschools. So my audience is typically anywhere from 3 or 4 up to like 10. So speaking in front of a group of adults, if I seem nervous, I am. So we said I've been there since 2013. Prior to volunteering at Bay Path, I did do some other volunteer work. I was a den leader for my son's Cub Scouts for 5 years. I went on all the school field trips. I was a lunch mother for an activity period, like once a week when my son was in middle school. So I was out there volunteering and, doing the right thing. But those were really self-serving, right? So they were not these selfless acts. I wanted my son in Cub Scouts, so I was a Cub Scout leader. I wanted him to go on the field trips, and they needed people to go. So this wasn't really, it was for me that I did it because I got stuff out of it. So it wasn't until I started volunteering at Bay Path that I thought, I'm not doing this self-serving. I'm actually getting out there. I'm going out, I'm volunteering, I'm not getting paid. Not for me, I'm doing this for helping the dogs because I love animals, or helping the staff because they didn't have enough time to do it. I have my own dog. I don't need to go walk somebody else's dog. So I thought, I'm doing this for someone else because I'm a good person, so I'm going to get out there. It was a win-win to do it for the school, right? I thought, when I thought I was doing this just to be this good person, I couldn't be more wrong. So about a month after I started volunteering, I started just doing 2 hours a week on a Wednesday morning, going to walk the dogs. Within about a month, maybe 6 weeks, I started volunteering as a foster mom. Our first fosters were these 2 9-week-old blind Doberman Pinscher brothers. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They were just hysterical. So I brought them home into my family. It was my husband and my son. And we taught them how to do things like walk on a leash, go up and down stairs, how to coordinate around their environment using senses other than their sight, like nothing funnier than a couple of puppies running and you're like, wait, and they smash into the wall. And they very quickly learn that wait means throw on the brakes, right? So these were things, so it was really fun. And so fast forward to today, and my family and I have fostered over 80 animals, probably closer to 100 if I kind of add in the litters and such that I've had. And adding that to the Bay Path Educates program, which I run, and I go all over the state and do that, I've probably logged in hundreds, if not thousands, of hours. And boy, it has changed me. I can tell you that there is nothing that makes me, and I say nothing makes me feel better than when I take a shy, timid, or abused animal into my home for several weeks or maybe even several months, and they reach a point after staying with me and my family where they can actually get adopted into another family and be happy about it. One of my foster fails that I have now, foster fails, for anybody who don't know, is when you actually keep the dog that you, but he was so shy, terrorized, and tormented as a pup that when we got him, he lived in a crate for a whole year. He hid in a crate in the back of my closet. I had to pull him out. And fast forward to today, we decided after a year, he wasn't adoptable. So my family and I decided to keep him. And 10 years later, he is the dog that goes on Bay Path Educates programs with me. He is the dog that meets the little kids and teaches them how to approach a strange dog and stuff like that. So let's see. So And the other thing, speaking of that program, the other thing that you can't imagine the joy is when you go into, say, a school or a library and you're standing in front of 20 first and second graders, and they're all so eager to learn about animal rescue or learn how to safely meet an animal, and they squeal with laughter when you tell some ridiculous joke about cleaning up too much poop or something like that, and like they love it. Sometimes after a program like that, I will smile for hours just thinking about the little girl who was too afraid to pat my rescue dog Lane, but went through all the things to my stuffed dog, because I always bring a stuffed dog with me, so they both get the same experience. But when I can tell you hours I can spend smiling after doing this. As a side bonus, when I started, my son was 10. So he went through this whole progress with me. He was with all of the shy dogs. He, in fact, was the one who actually taught the blind puppies to walk on a leash. And I can tell you what a tremendous effect it has on your family members and your children, volunteering at a place like this anyways. He learned responsibility. He learned compassion. It was tremendous. Even his friends, like all the friends would come over and they saw the gates up in the kitchen, Creel's got a new foster. And they all learned, door stays shut, flight risk, all that kind of stuff. And it affected, and it didn't even dawn on me how much it actually affected my son until he started applying for colleges. He just finished his sophomore year. He used fostering and his experience fostering on all his college essays. That was like the thing that they have to write to send in. It was unbeknownst to me. I did not realize that this was his thing until way later. So as a really benefit at the end to realize how much it affected him, and I tell you, he's a great kid, and he even up at college, up at UNH, he's done a few on his own drives for the rescues up there. He just sits up a stand outside of the local grocery store and does it. So I know volunteering, you can say that you're doing it for selfless. It is absolutely the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I look forward to all of my, no one has to ask me twice, oh, do you want to come to the Hopkinton? Oh yeah, I'll do it. Yep, you just ask me. I never say no. I go all over the state to go to libraries. People, they'll call and say, we're an hour and a half away. I'm like, yep, let me just make sure it's a day that I can drive when it's not too dark, But it's really been a tremendous effect on my family. I've made lifelong friends, like you've talked about, like lifelong friends. When you're in it with other people who are doing this, you can't help but feel good. You think you're doing it for someone else. I do this 100% selfless for myself because I get so much reward out of it. And I don't really have that much else to say because I was told to keep it at 5 minutes, and I know I've gone over. But
Thank you, Michelle. I think you did a great job. So our next speaker is Jack Nealon. He began his volunteering when he was studying abroad in a college that has led him to a human rights issue while he was in Ghana, Africa. Sounds fascinating. Currently, Jack is the executive director for the Live for Evan organization, which is based here in Hopkinton. He is, that provides housing to heart families that travel to Boston for children's hospitals needing cardiac care. All volunteer experiences have shaped his view of current and servant leadership and reinforced the importance of giving back to the community. Please welcome Jack Nealon.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much to the Hopkinton Youth Commission for putting on this event, and Dawn for convincing me to, and asking me and inviting me to come up. My name's Jack Nealon. I am a resident of Hopkinton, and I went to high school, middle school, and all the elementary schools out this way. Very proud of that. I personally believe that everybody's born a volunteer. It's just a matter of when they ignite that passion. And for me, I think, my parents and family was kind of always involved in things in the town, and maybe I was volunteering without knowing it. But when I first really got involved in understanding what it means to be a volunteer and how it impacts lives is I did a semester abroad, and I took a servant leadership course. And in this course, we had to do 4 or 5 things throughout the semester abroad that would, allow us to understand what it means to be a volunteer and servant leader for the world. And there was one experience in particular that I want to share, and then I'll certainly explain my volunteerism with Live for Heaven. And it was a visit to an orphanage in Shai Hills, Ghana. And, coming from a pretty big family in Hopkinton, I never left the state until I was in college, so this was kind of a big trip for me. So it was a great day. We ran around with these kids. We were able to meet them and didn't learn too much about their story, but, we knew that they were orphan children, and there was this amazing family from Ohio that had moved to Ghana and started this program. And it wasn't until the very end of the day when all the kids went to bed and we were staying over for a couple nights that we had learned that all the children that we had played with and played soccer and learned their names were all rescued child slaves. In Ghana, there's a massive lake, it's called Lake Volta, and a lot of the parents sell their kids to these fishermen, and these fishermen will go around, use the kids to fetch nets and work the boats for fish. This orphanage we went to, that's their mission. They go and they rescue the kids, negotiate with the fishermen, and from that day on, I just knew I needed to do something more than just go to college, get a job, have a family, and live happily ever after. So ever since that day, I'd kind of, like I'd imagine a lot of people in this room, had constantly been looking for volunteer activities. So I went back to my college out at Westfield State, started an organization to kind of support this group out in Ghana and raise some money to, raise money to allow more folks to work for this group to rescue more kids. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. It was about 6 months later that I had lost my good friend Evan. Also a Hopkinton grad here. He just had a faulty heart, had a condition that he'd been living with for his whole life, and unfortunately passed away. So again, not knowing that I was a volunteer, just knowing I wanted to do more, we went to Evan's parents like 6 months later and said, hey, we want to do something, what can we do? And we just kind of started raising money. We did a 5K here in Hopkinton about a year later. And I'm sure a lot of you know Hopkinton is one of the best places to run a nonprofit because the community, a lot of leadership, and an unbelievable network of support through donations and advice, and a lot of people who are willing to not only give their time, but their expertise in whatever it is that they work on. And that's how we were able to start the organization. We were able to run a couple events. We raised a decent amount of money, decided to become a 501c3 with myself, a couple other Evan's friends, and then Evan's parents. And fast forward, to 13 years later, we operate 6 apartments in Boston for families traveling into Boston for cardiac care. And how we came to learn about that is we, had a little fund of money. We went to Boston Children's Hospital and said, how can we help? What is it that we can do to make the burden on these families a little better? That we've heard some crazy stories. And they weren't shy to us. They told us that families were sleeping in their car in the parking garage, families were sleeping in the waiting rooms, and a lot of families are there for 9 months to a year because they're waiting for heart transplants or, certain types of conditions that, really allow them to maintain to stay in Boston. So that's what we did. We decided we were going to rent apartments, lease them out to families that were coming in from 50 miles or more, and started with one apartment. And thanks to the Hopkinton community and the families that had stayed with us, we've been able to kind of sustainably grow to create this kind of a cool network of families from all over the world and all over the country, as well as a network of support here in Hopkinton and kind of the greater Hopkinton area. So I bring all this up, and it's one of the best parts of my day. I also have a day job. This is kind of something I do nights and weekends and, in and out of the apartments when I need to. But I bring it up because it's the joy of my weeks. It's so easy to go through things in life that are kind of just monotonous, and you're at work and it doesn't feel like you're actually benefiting anybody. But with Live for Evan, we have 6 families at any given time who are being supported in a way that, we're not in there having dinner with them every night, but we're giving them a place to stay. And, for them to be close to the hospital and close to their kids, it just makes a huge difference in the recovery of the kids and the parents being able to cope with the condition. And, if I look back when I was in high school, literally right over there, I would never have guessed that volunteerism would have brought me down a path that would lead me to standing in front of you here tonight. So, for me, it kind of allows me this outlet of, joy working with these families and, fundraising. I never thought I would be interested in fundraising, but I kind of love it. And I think it's something that, everybody should learn a little bit about, because if there's a cause out there that, needs some support, it's really not all that difficult to walk a 5K or run an event or, put on a bake sale. And I believe that the town of Hopkinton has given me those tools. I think everybody's born a volunteer, then you make the decision whether you actually want to get involved in it, or somebody says, hey, come along to this event with me. And I am now a constant advocate for anybody, especially the youth, to understand the value of volunteerism as they get older. Because when you become an adult and you have tools and skills and a bunch of knowledge, you can really make a pretty big impact on people. And we were just talking about selflessness. I mean, volunteerism, you don't get paid for it, right? So there's really nothing for you minus what you get out of it internally. And, I'm the executive director, so I'm not, I'm also a paid employee of the organization, but volunteerism comes from a good place. There's no profit, there's no quota you have to reach at the end of the year. It's kind of your time, your energy, your expertise, and what it is that you want to give back to the community. And as we're demonstrating here tonight, it comes in all forms. So, the uniqueness of being able to volunteer for different types of groups and, raise money for different types of groups. It's a really important part of life, and I personally am very glad I found it when I did, because I look forward to the future of not only Live for Evan, but other volunteer opportunities that come about. So I appreciate everybody's time and all the other speakers sharing, and thank you very much.
Wow, you can really hear the joy, like he said. When people talk about their experiences, it really is joy. So our next speaker is actually one of our members from Hopkinton Youth Commission, Joshua Jones. And he started volunteering as part of a trail creation group for runners in Hopkinton. And then this led him to join Hopkinton Youth Commission and also the group Ignite to help with younger kids and the problems that they're facing. He's continued to volunteer for different organizations and an active member of Youth Commission, and he is the current treasurer for the freshman class. He's also a very impressive person. Please welcome Joshua Jones.
Hello, everyone. I ended up joining the Hopkinton Youth Commission because I hadn't found many opportunities. I didn't know exactly where to look, and then all of a sudden my mom was like, hey, you want to join the Hopkinton Youth Commission? I was like, sure, why not? And it was really fun because almost immediately there was an event, the Pride Parade in June. It's an annual event we've been doing for a few years. And I just had a lot of fun with it. I remember we went down and we were decorating and we went on the march, and I just had such a good time. I felt like I was doing something important. And this feeling led me to, for example, like become an officer for my class so I could continue fundraising and volunteering. Just last week, I was volunteering at Bill's for an event to raise money for my class. And all of that has made me feel really, really good about myself. And this kind of goes back to kind of the point of the event. We're giving ourselves, through volunteering, a good feeling. We're feeling like we're truly achieving something better for everyone. But at the same time, it made me realize that it is actually on a smaller scale really important. Even just like basic things that you do in your day-to-day life make you feel good and make other people feel good. Like I was thinking, if I give a pencil to somebody in my class, like they're not gonna feel exhilarated at the fact that they got a pencil, but it'll at least make me feel and them feel like, oh, I got something out of it because I was doing a good act for someone else, and they get to write whatever the notes or the project assignments are. And I wanna carry that through my entire life. With every action I do, I want it to be good and helpful for other people. And I think if we all, as a society in general, follow through on that, I think it would be a better place for everyone. So thank you all.
I agree. We should all be good and helpful to everybody. So our next speaker is Debbie Colburn. She is a resident of nearby Holliston and a volunteer at Project Just Because. Debbie learned about PJB when she worked at EMC on South Street and through their different program collections in the cafeteria. So Project Just Because is a 501c3 statewide resource for food and clothing, as well as many other special programs throughout the year, such as birthdays, Valentine's, Easter, and holiday bags, back-to-school backpacks, and Keep a Family Warm winter coats. Debbie retired from EMC in 2014 and started volunteering at PJB in 2016. Please welcome Debbie Colburn.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to talk about Project Just Because. As she said, I retired from EMC. Along the way, I worked in high tech all of my career. So I did some volunteering, self-serving, as was spoken of before, in that I was a merit badge counselor for Boy Scouts, for all the citizen in the merit badges. Why? Because nobody else volunteered, and they said, would you do it? I said, sure. I volunteered at the Holliston Historical Society one day a month trying to get their library together because they needed somebody with computer skills. So it was, hi, can you do this? Sure. High tech is a pretty high pressure. Lots of time, so I kind of got out of it a little bit more, but then I retired in 2014. And then I cleaned my house, organized everything, read, I can't even tell you how many books, because I hadn't been able to. And so about a year and a half, when we traveled, said, now what? What do I do now? I was an active high-tech employee. I was always doing something. I have 2 boys. They were always busy. So what do I do now? I could get a job. No. I already did that. So I could see what I could do to help somebody. So I started thinking, I love the library. Do I want to work at the library? What do I like to do? What would be beneficial? What would be helpful? And Project Just Because was the same distance from my work, from my home, since I was on South Street at the end of my career. So I walked in, gave a call, and said, what can I do? Is you looking for volunteers? And they put me to work that day sorting through clothes. And I said, I'll come when I can. And I started coming, and then I started coming on the same day, and one of the staff said, you like Mondays, why don't you come every Monday? I said, sure. You get to meet people, you get to help people. The more I was there, the more I was there. Once you get involved, you just can't step away. There's something else that needs to be done. That's kind of my career. If something needed to be done, not my job, wasn't really part of the vocabulary, it's, well, let's figure out how we can get it done. So I got more and more involved, volunteered more days, was on the fundraising committee for their Shamrock Shindig, got to know more people, and it was fun. And it was helping people at the same time. So fun and helping people just makes you feel good. I also volunteer at, I'm part of Holliston Newcomers and Neighbors. I thought I'm helping in a statewide organization. I'm helping locally as well. And part of the executive board and part of getting some fundraisers to give back to our local community as well. Because once you start, there's always something that you say, I'm able to do it. So sure. And from the Project Just Because side, the people that you see who need help, we help 800 families a week now come to the grocery store. They just need help to get by. We see women who are about to give birth, and then a few months later, we get to see the baby come shopping as well. And we get to know the people who come in. I volunteer on Thursdays. That's my day. I will go in other days if they need help. I'm going in tomorrow. They're not open, but we have work to do. And you get to see, oh, there's that couple. There's that, child that we give the little candy to as they come through the line. And you just meet more people. You meet other volunteers. And it becomes your own little community that you're all helping each other. I do a lot of these meetings because they needed somebody to go to meetings. I go to Chamber of Commerce, I go to a business networking meeting, because I have the skills, as was talked about. We all have different skills from our life and career, and I'm able to do this. So sure, why not? And I get to meet people in here. I get to meet people in all the meetings that I go to that I would have never met before. So it's socially enriching. And I've made friends that will be lifelong friends. And I've met people in the networking meetings that I go to my audiologist was part of that. You just meet people and they just help along with it. So I guess from volunteering for me just was always, well, what can I do? I had my career and now it's time to give back. So thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next speaker.
So our final speaker of the evening is Russ Ellsworth. And Russ has been passionate about volunteering for the past 40 years. He started during high school. Over the years, he's been involved in many volunteer activities. Currently, he volunteers 3 days a week for 3 different organizations. Mondays for the Hopkinton Public Library, helping shelve books and complete projects. The public library serves patrons of all ages, interests, and abilities, offering books and events, research assistants, study rooms, a library of things, and more. Russ is an active member of the library community and an integral part of the library volunteer group. On Tuesdays, he delivers food for Project Just Because for those who cannot pick it up themselves, and on Thursdays at the Senior Central Library. He was also a greeter at the just-held Hop 101 at the high school. I'm tired just talking about all of the things he does, so very impressive. There's more to come. Please welcome Ross.
Thank you. Thank you to the Youth Commission for inviting me to say my piece, and it was good to see you again. We recognized each other, Let me just say that this is ironic that 40 years ago, in May of 1983, the 3-board select board, Sally McIntosh, Penny Manchester, and John Hinckley appointed me to serve an unexpired term on the planning board. And that's how I got my start as an adult volunteer. When you said 40 years ago, that was as an adult. It was 60 years when I was in high school. 60 plus. Okay, along with the volunteering I do now, I'll just read off what I've done over the years, and I know I'm missing something because, the memory starts to go when you... I was on the planning board for 7 years, ZBA for 14 years, Zoning Advisory Committee for 17 years, Marathon Fund Committee for 21 years, Housing Partnership for 3 years, and Library Trustee for 12 years. And that was just the town government portion of my volunteering. I did that after my children were old enough that they could be left alone for a few hours at night. And I did that because let me just preface, I grew up in Hopkinton. I went to center school, and I went to what is now the middle school. Those are the only 2 schools I went to. And I wanted to give back to my community, who gave me an education, who gave my wife an education, who gave my children education, a community that kept me out of trouble, most trouble, a community that I established friendships with many people, 2 of them that I had coffee with this morning, go all the way back to high school, and also where I met the best friend of my life 65 plus years ago, and who I've been married to for almost 56 years. So Hopkinton is in my blood, and that's why I did as much as I could. I also, over the years, was in the high school athletic boosters club when my kids were in school. I was on the high school athletic Hall of Fame committee one year. I'm on the Friends of the Seniors. I was on the Friends of the Library. I was an original member of the Friends of the Library back in the 1980s. I've volunteered at Jimmy Fun Walks, Boston Marathon, like Senior Center, of course, and Project Just Because, of course, and also, now that's my adult volunteering. I'm like the poster boy of volunteering. And she did save the oldest for last. I think that she did that on purpose. She must have seen everybody's birth certificate here. But in high school, I wasn't in student government, but anytime anybody needed, like we used to have the proms in what is now the old middle school gymnasium, and we used to decorate. We decorated for the junior prom, the senior winter ball, and I was always there, you know. Me and my friends were up in the rafters stringing the crepe paper and hanging the things down, and I was always involved in that. One of the reasons why I was involved in it, as I think about it now, I was kind of selfish. You'd get out of class. You'd get out of class. I mean, that's what we strive for. Anything to get out of class. You all know what I'm talking about, you know. So, also, I was a member of what was called the Key Club, and that was affiliated with the Kiwanis Club. Kiwanis Club is a service organization. So we did a lot of things with them to serve the community as well. As a matter of fact, there used to be a thing called Kids Day, which was the forerunner of Family Day, and we used to help the Kiwanis Club give out ice cream, hot dogs, drinks, help with the rides that they had, and everything like that. And that used to be a Sunday in the fall, and it was a lot of fun. Then, through my church, the first congregational church I was in was known as Pilgrim Fellowship. In a subcommittee of Pilgrim Fellowship, I was Teen Canteen, and that was the dance. Every Saturday night, we had a dance in Eldridge Hall in the Congregational Church, which is now is the Korean church. And it was downstairs every Saturday, and we used to get the hall ready for the dance. We used to clean up afterward because there'd be Sunday school. We'd have to set up all the tables and everything. And for 2 years, I was the treasurer. So I used to take them. I used to see everybody that come in, because I used to take the money. And so I've been volunteering a long time. There was a lull when I got married and had children. I mean, our work schedules collided. I worked days, my wife worked nights. So I would watch the children, and I didn't have no time to do it, to volunteer. So I took some time off, but let me digress. After graduating from high school, and a lot of you know, the ultimate volunteer job, I went into the service. I went into the Navy. And that is the ultimate volunteer job that I think that anyone can do for their country. And in 4 days or 5 days, it'll be Memorial Day, when we honor and remember those who gave their lives so we could sit here and talk to each other and communicate with each other. And I just hope that you would take a moment next Monday to think about that. And if you know a veteran, and I know there's another veteran sitting right over here to my right, that I'll say, thank you for your service, Muriel. Thank you. Finally, and I know the last one, everybody wants to go home. Finally, like somebody said earlier, not everyone is cut out to be a volunteer. But they'll never know unless they try at least once. And finally, and this is a little more personal, and I probably shouldn't do this. In 15 days, I'll be turning 80, and I wish that I can volunteer for many, many, many more years. And I just want to say thank you for inviting me and having my little speech. I got my notes. I didn't write anything down. That's my notes. And thank you very much, and everybody have a nice summer. Thank you.
Volunteerism, my friends, is not merely an act of selflessness. It is a manifestation of our passion and purpose. For me, that passion encompasses mental health, diversity and inclusion, and education to make a tangible impact on people's lives. Mental health stands as one of the greatest challenges of our time. As the chair of the Youth Commission and someone aspiring to be a psychiatrist, I feel a deep responsibility to understand and destigmatize these health issues. Through college courses on neuroscience, drugs and society, and internships in clinical psychology, I have strived to expand my knowledge and contribute to the development of effective solutions. It is imperative that we address mental health with empathy and understanding, ensuring that no one is judged or left behind in their pursuit of well-being. As we strive for progress, we must acknowledge that true equality is the cornerstone of a civilized society. While we have a long way to come as a nation, we have come a long way as a nation, there is still much to be done to achieve genuine equality. It is our duty to foster diversity and create a welcoming community for every individual. This is why I champion diversity and inclusion at both the high school and in the Youth Commission. Every effort counts, whether it is celebrating young women on Women's Day to empower girls and women to go for it, establishing a prayer room at school to embrace various faiths, celebrating all cultures and holidays to make everyone feel valued, and celebrating the Pride Parade to empower the LGBTQ+ community, reminding us all that we are interconnected and we belong together. As a daughter of immigrants, I understand the privilege of living in an affluent American suburb like ours, and the need to genuinely care about what matters to all humanity. This is what inspired me to serve as an ambassador of change at a foundation called Ekadamor, which means One Step Forward, and we serve underprivileged students in India and Nepal. It is rewarding to get to know the brilliant, motivated students across the world working so hard despite their circumstances. As I sat in one of the lectures over the summer before 10th grade, I watched the number of students in the Zoom call climb. 10, 30, 60, 86, 110 the following day, and 97 the day after. They wanted to learn, and I realized I didn't. At least I hadn't wanted to in a long time. I forgot what it looked like because most people I knew didn't really want to learn either. At least they felt they had to. So the year after, I fought to learn. Every time I had an opportunity to learn more, I did. And for the first time in a long time, I enjoyed learning. They gave me the motivation and a chance to use my life for a greater purpose, to serve humanity. Their optimism and drive inspired me to work hard to develop innovative education and health initiatives that benefit the students by improving their ability to do research, communicate, and work as a team. Collaborating with the foundation staff and president, I've witnessed the immense impact of small collective actions. Volunteering is not a one-sided endeavor. It enriches the volunteer as much as those being served. Through my experiences, I've grown as an individual, learning more about myself and the world around me. I've been blessed to learn from incredible mentors who embody honesty, integrity, empathy, and a relentless desire to help others, to make a positive impact on community. Volunteering has taught me how to recognize the needs of others, develop the discipline to work diligently to understand the issues, and develop effective plans, take initiative to bring all relevant parties together, collaborate with diverse teams, communicate effectively, and persevere through setbacks. Volunteering has granted me the confidence and courage to stand up for what is right. I've gained the strength to be vulnerable, to share humbly and openly about my fears and limitations, empowering others to also to share without feeling judged. It has been powerful to see how shared values and common goals can bring people together to effect change. Despite all that, sometimes I'm afraid to try something new, like being the first youth to chair the Youth Commission. I'm also terribly afraid of public speaking, which was at its height during the pandemic, where I was also diagnosed with an adjustment disorder. But I remind myself of what Mandela said. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So please, do not let your fear and self-doubt hold you back. You are enough, and you are not alone. And when we come together, we possess the strength to make a difference and uplift our community. In conclusion, I leave you with the profound words of Dr. King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Let us see the goodness within each other, place our faith in a brighter future, and come together in service to our community. If you feel inspired to join us to make a positive impact on the youth and families of Hopkinton, I invite you to join hands with the Youth Commission and other organizations in our town as we eagerly await your time, energy, and dedication. We are here to assist you in finding the perfect fit and connect you with the organization that resonates with your purpose. Together, let us be the architects of change, shaping a world where compassion and volunteerism thrive. May our collective efforts inspire others, empower the marginalized, and create a society where every individual can thrive. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I know it's not easy to give up your Thursday nights, and I hope you've all learned, or, well, most of you already know this, but the importance of volunteering. And please feel welcome to stay and chat with each other about volunteering. It could be anything, though. And I hope you all enjoy your night, so thank you.